Alright, finally, welcome back to another episode of Media Mentality, where I review, react, and recommend something I find interesting in hopes that you find something interesting about it. And if you find just one thing out of anything I say and let you check it out, then I've done my job. After a lot of personal shit, I've returned and still kind of, consumed pop culture more or less while I was out when I could throughout mostly the month of March and end of February, and now we're halfway through April already. And boy, let me tell you, I had two fantastic movies and a couple of surprises that I enjoyed a lot. Gonna just, I guess, burn through them together. This might just be a movie video and then an album video later. Makes the most sense. Starting with The Batman, which is just fantastic. It really is. It's my favorite Batman movie, period. Might as well just go out and say it. It'll be out for everyone to watch on HBO Max by the time this video comes out, so you can really see for yourself. Matt Reeves was someone that I had a lot of faith in when he got the project after how much I loved the Planet of the Apes trilogy, which I think is also personally one of my favorite movie trilogies of all time. Like, just a flat 3 set of films. Those I can watch all the time and I think are masterfully made and creatively divergent from where I think a lot of people were expecting the series to go, or the potential of a reboot had, especially after the Tim Burton issue. And I say this as someone who grew up wholly on almost nothing but the Batman animated series more than anything else as far as what Batman was to me. The entire Bruce Timm produced universe all the way through Justice League and Justice League Unlimited and Batman Beyond. Kevin Conroy was Batman. And this is the closest film to that, like, without a doubt. There's so much slow pacing, nuance filled angst and struggle without ever really derailing what Batman is to a lot of people, that I think the Nolan films have kind of come and gone for a good number of people, not nearly enough to change the idea that that is the best Batman on screen just yet. Like, it's still, I would say, if 80% of the Batman fandom loved the film franchise already, only like maybe another 5 or 10% has kind of gotten over it. And I'm kind of part of that 10%. I'm making up statistics. Don't challenge me on it. It's fine. I'm just saying numbers. But I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of tired of ignoring how bad Christian Bale's voice is and how, like, uninteresting he is in most of the Batman films. He's the least interesting part in all 3 movies, really, and that's not good. Like, I think as far as being a Batman, Bale doesn't do a lot. I think we get his most, like, drastic human moments and sometimes sort of illogical emotional bits when he's being Bruce Wayne, and that's fine. But then now Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson, of all people, have made it to where Bruce and Batman really are the same person. That I don't think that's ever actually been accomplished in live action Batman films until now, where you feel Bruce through Batman, and when he is just Bruce, he wants to go back to being Batman so badly. He needs that mask because that's the real him. A literary device that has been the argument for Bat fandom forever is how much of, who the real mask is. And a lot of people agree, that Bruce is the mask. And this shows in just the small parts that he isn't Batman, because it's probably the least amount of Bruce Wayne in any film, how badly he needs to stay Batman, how uncomfortable he is as Bruce Wayne, and solely just Bruce Wayne. I think more than anything, like, I don't mind being contested and disputed that the entire film might be, too long or too much or something, and doesn't completely peak certain points of Batman that other people like, compared to, Nolan or even the original Tim Burton. But I honestly believe the first 20-25 minutes up until when the Nirvana song Something in the Way plays is the most perfect established world building openings of any Batman film. Like the absolute best. Nothing even touches it. The best first 25 minutes of any Batman movie, hands down. Like, it's by a country mile, or however you want to call it. Fucking, it's jaw dropping. Just how what I was afraid from commercials was going to be a very similar Nolan-esque Batman to a completely different form. It is so comic booky and realistic at the same time. It's got that over the top graphic feeling without it ever having to result to like flashy bloodiness. Honestly, I think that's very impressive to me. The whole concept of just showing these, random petty criminals and then these like shitty, violent, racist douchebags going after, an Asian guy just because he's Asian. That's totally what that scene is. I hope people got that. These guys are in like white face paint and they're just thugs and they're gonna go beat up this guy, not just because he's afraid of him, but because he's an Asian guy. Because he's not the same race as them. The one black kid in the group is like really not having it. And there's a literal hate crime, and Batman stops that. He doesn't stop the petty dumbass robber. He doesn't stop the government building tagger. He stops the hate crime. And I think that was the best answer without, being super direct and overly explanatory about it, of dealing with so much discourse we have now where people think that Batman is literally just a crazy rich white guy who goes and beats up thugs just because he can. And I think that fixed it for this world. It's not the, we solved racism answer. That's impossible. But as far as like, if you want to just take it at its core directly, there you go. But I thought what they did with the Riddler was great too, because I think there's actually a lot of space for the Riddler to change. He's definitely coming back, and the deleted scene that they have put online, which might be in the HBO Max version with the Joker, which I think they should do that. That just popped in my head. The HBO Max version should have the Joker scene in it. Might as well, since they already revealed it, right? But I think this was a great idea of being this faceless fool trying to find his identity, and now he has to change it again because he thought the Batman was on his side, and clearly that didn't happen. So, a lot of this weighs on my belief of the potential moving forward. That is true. I think it's amazing, well made. I didn't have a problem with a 3-hour runtime. I believe that tying Riddler to like the message board QAnon conspiracy everyone needs to die setup is pretty good. I think a lot of people missed that because they were kind of like, man, yeah, Batman and Riddler are kind of fighting on the same side, so what's this difference and why does it matter and why does he want to kill the new up and coming supposedly uncorrupt politician? That's because to steal from the Michael Caine line and the other Batman, some men just want to watch the world burn, but it's because they think that scorched earth is the solution. They can't trust anybody that they didn't handpick themselves, so they got to kill all the other options. That's what QAnon is. That's what extreme radical right-wing groups are about, is getting rid of everyone who doesn't agree with them so they can completely appoint their own level of hierarchy. And any radical groups like that, radical left could be said the same, whole guillotine nonsense, but it's all about how it's handled. Believe it or not, this is not an Antifa thing where they are faceless dudes and they're going to like just kill people. This is literally message board shit, conspiracy theories. It's literally right there. It's very obvious, I think, and I was rather surprised a lot of people didn't see the connection with the message board addition at the very end. There's so much more I loved about it, but those were the two biggest things. How Batman was handled and how Riddler were handled were completely different ways that I thought were very amazing to me. And this is a 9.5 flat out. 9.5 out of 10. End of the day, Dunzos, love it. Love it very much. I just do. I could go on and on, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to rant like crazy. Batman and Bruce are really the same person in this more than any other show. I think that's a big takeaway. Very important takeaway. My biggest gripe, if I had an actual complaint, is, and again, it's already long, so this is probably why they didn't do it, but I would have been fine with it. It's at least one showing of him as Bruce taking responsibility and being the entrepreneur, charity giving billionaire that he kind of like has to be now. Hopefully they won't have him go into politics, but he could be like finally a heavyweight in the surface of Gotham politics. He kind of has to be at this point. If they don't do that, then that might like be a lot of garnered bad faith from setup in this film. But I don't think Matt Reeves is that foolhardy, or he might have a better idea in mind. So then we have Turning Red, which I adored. I think there should be, I don't know, what about Turning Red hasn't already been said? And I mean, what? Right? Where do I go? Do I talk about how it's in 2002 and how 2002 people acted? I was 10 ish. And let me tell you, I love the nostalgia feel while it's still just being about itself. There's a lot there. It's, generational trauma and how different families deal with certain things and, periods and puberty and just women being women and Asian girls in Canada being Asian girls in Canada, I have to assume, because I'm not an Asian girl or from Canada. I fully accept the world that's lived in. I fully accept the clear Ranma one half and Sailor Moon taking anime inspirations, which I feel like is the first huge major American company, American film that's like that. That really actually, I think, takes more anime influence than American animation influence. I feel like it's the first one. I could be totally wrong. And I'm talking about at this level, as this huge film that should have made millions of dollars, but they, freaked out for whatever reason. And despite being put just on Disney Plus, the two main women who helped direct and write the film, Domi Shi and Julia Cho, I think, both just got like some kind of promotion within Pixar where they have more general leader positions than before the film. So they got promoted from the success of the movie, period. Couldn't find the details in the like 5 seconds I tried to look it up. But beyond that, I just thought it was fun and silly and infectious. The positivity and the personality and dynamics of all the girls. I like that stuff. Anime moe exists, and between that and My Little Pony, which had drastically huge male fan bases for whatever reason, I actually do think there are more guys who just like girls doing silly stuff more than whatever nefarious, perverse reasons that all of anime and the brony situation has garnered, which is, shit that exists, sucks. But I think there are guys out there who wish that, they can be masculine and still be silly, which is what they do with Tyler. That kid is a little shitbag, and he is the most boyish boy to be a boy in that movie, and then he becomes the fifth bestie at the end. Detail someone noticed all those girls have the same friendship bracelets, and at the end credits, Tyler has the same friendship bracelet, so he gets accepted for being a dude who likes the same stuff that the girls can like. So that is a very subtle message that you should really take away from without it being like taking anything from the rest of the film and the main point of the film. I do feel bad that I didn't get this feeling from Encanto. I still think Encanto was just about a very mild family dispute that didn't translate the same. And, it'd be really dunderhead of me to say it's because I didn't have a giant panda fight. Oh man, I didn't understand the emotional generational trauma between the grandma and the daughter in Encanto, because the grandma didn't turn into a giant, not red panda, because just some giant kaiju representation of that trauma. That's what I didn't get. Like, man, so I am still a dude. I am still a dude. It's like, what do you mean you didn't turn into a giant monster to show me the metaphor? Bad movie. No, I still feel bad I don't like Encanto nearly as much as something like this. But that's just me shouting out personal thoughts. And the fact that I have subconsciously watched Turning Red 3 times now, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because that means rewatchability is super important to me when grading something I think I'll go back to, and I have end up going back to. Mostly because my partner says, hey, let's watch it, and I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'm not against it. And sometimes I'm against rewatching stuff, and since I'm not here, I think this is like a 7 story with an 8 out of 10 likability and enjoyability. So 8 out of 10. Also, Abby would be my daughter. That is how I want to raise my daughter. My daughter will be like Abby. I have a daughter. She will be this fiery little gremlin beast who takes no shit. And I know small, minor Japanese, mostly curse words, so I'll probably teach them to her when so at 10 years old when she's mad, she can just say them and her American teacher won't know what the fuck she's talking about. Now talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is, I think, an indie film phenomenon at this point. I really hope it's making its money and it's really making the rounds. You should really see it if you love, balls to the walls movies and you are tired of the grand scale blockbuster sensibility of filmmaking and still have that feeling with a much more compact and deliberately minimal while still, piling up as much as it can on that minimum aspect of filmmaking and presentation. Michelle Yeoh has always been one of those actresses where she's in a bunch of films that I like kind of randomly there and I'm like, oh, that's who that is. I love her, that kind of thing. I adore those actors and I should do a lot better job of knowing immediately who they are when I see them. And Michelle Yeoh had gotten to the point where it's like, I know her, see her in everything. I know her name. I just couldn't, rattle off a bunch of films that she's in that like I should. But the thing about Everything Everywhere All at Once is I'd say it's like 1 part Matrix and Cloud Atlas and 1 part Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It is absurdist humor, not to the like insane lengths that some films go, but it takes itself very seriously when it needs to, and the background is ridiculous, and the outfits and the situations are ridiculous, but the people are serious, and the acting is serious, and the situation is serious, and that kind of storytelling and presentation has always been kind of one of my favorites. It's not the same thing as like a parody or a satire. It's, yeah, all this weird shit is happening, and we still have to deal with it, and that stuff's really fun. Michelle Yeoh gets to show off her years and years and years of martial arts and stunt work. This is really her Nicolas Cage movie where, later on in a week or so, the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent comes out and it's just Nicolas Cage celebrating Nicolas Cage. This is Michelle Yeoh celebrating Michelle Yeoh. Absolutely. She talked about how much this script felt like it belonged to her, that it was written for her, that it was sent this to her. She believed understanding that they knew everything she was capable of as an actress, and I believe that too, and I see it. I really do. It gets weird in some parts. Again, absurdist humor. There's one situation, I guess spoilers if you haven't seen it at all, where it's multiverse. So her brain just kind of pinballs through personalities and aspects, and she has to deal with certain situations really quick, and then she's pinballed back to her real body or back to another situation, or again, it's all happening at once. That's the whole point, right? These are all situations that her brain is trying to deal with at the same time, and that part of the plot as well. But one of the universes is they have sausage hot dog fingers, and it's really fucking gross. I don't like gross out humor, and I really don't like gross out food humor. I don't. They shoot mustard and ketchup out of their fingers, and that just saying that out loud kind of makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little. That is 100% a human me preference that I will not apologize for, and that keeps the film from being perfect. That keeps the film from being highly recommended unless I preface that. I'm like, hey, so this has gross out humor, and if you're fine with that, abso-fucking-lutely. And I still love this movie, and still probably already gonna say it's gonna be a top 5 film of the year for me. But man, I watched that movie, and every time it went back to that universe and that situation that her hot dog finger self had to deal with, God, saying that loud. I'm just like, guys, I already love this movie. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you punishing me for loving what you're writing until this fucking point? Why? Seriously, seriously, seriously. That's my only real complaint. The ending is abrupt, and I complain about abrupt endings all the time. But, like, it concluded. She resolved her life. It's just that suspicious ending. Again, spoilers if you're not already, and I'll do a skip ahead. But then they're all there together, and maybe that's open for a sequel. Maybe that's the whole point. The return of actor Ke-Huy Quan is kind of cool. He was, Short Round in Indiana Jones Temple of Doom and Data in the Goonies, and this is like literally his third biggest film by default, kind of. He's had other films, but if you can name them, good job. I couldn't. And I always wondered about him, and that's so cool that he came back and he really got to shine too. He got to do some martial arts skills and stunt work. He did fantastic acting. He's also multiple personalities throughout the multiverse, so he gets to do just as much as Michelle Yeoh, but not to the level, which is fun. And that's the other cool thing, is there's only like 5 actors and they all have to play multiple versions of their character. That's great writing, I think. And I think it's very consistent in its free-form, relentless rule breaking of sci-fi tropes, and just dealing with that and just going for it and refusing to like accept if there's a plot hole or not. They don't care, because it's like, no, we're just cramming it in there, we're gonna deal with it. That's cool. There's so many Easter eggs. There's just background things in every scene. I caught a few. I need to watch it again for sure for that reason. But it was wonderful. It's the thing I like, because I love the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie, even though a lot of people think that it's kind of a half-assed interpretation of the book. I love the books too. That's neither here nor there. Bill and Ted situation and feeling is obvious even from the trailer. You can watch the trailer and I'm sure you'll know what I mean when I say Bill and Ted. But so to have such a serious film with a wacky personality and dress up is a breath of fresh air. It just is. It's a 9.25 out of 10. Again, the gross out humor keeps it from being above the Batman, basically, which is the film to beat right now. But that's neither here nor there, because in a lot of ways, could be better depending on what you like. Those are two different sides of what I like about filmmaking, honestly. The complete different end spectrums. At the most extreme is something like the Batman, and then at the most unique and minimalist and carefree is absolutely when I saw the trailer for Everything Everywhere. I knew it was made for me for the most part. I just knew it, and it did not disappoint, and it did not fail. I realize now that I'm halfway through this, that the order is crazy. Next, because I'm basically going in order of what I saw them and what I like the most, right? So Sonic 2 is 2 movies put together, basically. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of personality fixed, a lot of character presentation improved. The 2 new characters, Knuckles and Tails, are pretty much done perfectly. Tails could have used a bit more. Idris Elba's Knuckles is great. I don't know how many people are gonna love the interpretation, and I'll get into that in a minute, but I think it was the best choice they could have, especially if he's already guaranteed getting his own spin-off, I think is what it is. Like, we're getting a 3 and Knuckles, I think, I don't know. But the biggest problem, and I won't apologize for feeling this way, and I know a lot of people got really bothered by how many people felt this way. First half isn't good. The first half is what we always get, you know? Sonic's still by himself. He's still doing human things. It's the CGI versus the real world backdrop, and it's uninteresting, and they still have James Marsden to deal with for the most part. He is there, you know? He's just there. And they're there throughout. It's a little better near the end. But up until the point where Knuckles comes in, beats the crap out of Sonic, and then Sonic and Tails make it to the first clue of the Master Emerald, I'm worried. I'm worried the whole time. It's like, man, does this save face? Does this improve? It does drastically. Like, as soon as they do the avalanche scene and they go to the next location and they have to deal with that, everything's great from there pretty much. But that's like 45 minutes or something. So the first half is nothing special, nothing good, nothing enjoyable. I don't know. I mean, very rude. But the second half is fantastic. Second half is fun and silly and creative and very fan servicey, very for Sonic fans. It saves itself so good. It really, really does. You know, with that in mind, I have to really think about like how to feel about slogging through a very uneventful and very uninteresting first half to get to the part where it's almost non-stop hits from there. So, you know, the last hour is golden. But mostly to talk about Knuckles real quick. They made him a stupid himbo, but not like Sonic Boom levels. More like they just went with the Drax route. He's just Drax. But I don't know. Idris Elba's speech patterns are even funnier than Dave Bautista's delivery, I think. So there's that. They're more jilted, like he's still trying to understand or grip English and human phrases. So he's still like understands what he's talking about. He has the funniest line at near like the very end. Like it's practically a post-credits scene. They're playing spoilers at this point, whatever. They're playing baseball and he's not understanding the concept, and it's hilarious because he's like, I hit the enemy ball, and if my journey finishes where I started, then what was the point, or something like that. But it was done way better, and that killed me. That was so good. So if I end where I start, then why are we doing this? Also, shout out to the end credit scene because the line, "Oh my God, we found Project Shadow," was uttered with like no sense of that's a dumb fucking line. That's ballsy. That's going full head first into the deep end of just Sonic lore, Sonic respect of trying to do these films the better way and trying to leave as much as that, you know, Smurf movie bullshit that started all, or Chipmunks, or whichever one it was first, trying to get rid of that finally. That's what it's all about, I think. I really believe that's it. That's where we gotta go. I think they understand that. It's crazy though, because Jim Carrey says he wants to retire from acting, so I'm like, that's like, man, I wouldn't be like, oh, but Jim, what about Eggman? But like, weird. So I don't know what the plan there is at all, unless, you know, it'd be a decent joke, I think, if they recasted him and he's just like, what? You know, he comes back and they realize he's a different actor, but he's just like, it's just a character. It's a new character design, you know? It's a new part of the franchise. It happens all the time. I have like 8 incarnations. He could even be like, do we want to talk about what you looked like at the start of all this? And just that'd be too meta for them, probably. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that semi extra meta route for them. But yeah, because I struggle with just how much I could not care for the first 40-50 minutes, it's like a 6.75 out of 10. But if I'm rating separate, you know, to, you know, make people happy, so the first half is like a flat 5, maybe 4.75 if I gotta give it a number. And right after the avalanche scene, it jumps to like a flat 8. So I hated Free Guy, and yet decided, because it's the type of sci-fi I prefer, to watch The Atom Project on Netflix, because It's written and directed by the same dude who did Free Guy, and it has Ryan Reynolds in it. So, this should have been I should have learned my lesson. Never going to do that again situation. But it wasn't. I'm not going to go into all the reasons why I detested Free Guy, but it's complete opposite here. Both like the type of Ryan Reynolds is in this movie, and the sci-fi themes, just, wacky time travel. It's not great. It's one of those like old school action movies, but with that very upbeat, sarcastic, fun having personality. Soundtrack's great. There's a fight scene to Taking My Time by Boston, and that sold it for me because I'm actually very easy sometimes. I'm actually so easy. I can nitpick some shit to death, and then other dumb crap like that, I'm just like, this is delicious. I'm so glad you put so much sugar into this meal. Thank you. And that's basically what it is. It's just my favorite meal with sugar in the sauce. I don't even know what to say too much. It's just choreographed better. It's paced better. Everyone is more likable in this movie. Every character, even the bad guy, is more fun from a like storytelling perspective, not from a characterization perspective. The characterization in Free Guy, because I guess I have to compare it over and over since they're like only 5 months apart and they're literally like a huge chunk of the same group of people. I say that it's just the two guys as far as I know. But anyways, it's just no character in Free Guy is likable and you want them to succeed. They're not admirable or interesting or anything like that. But the obnoxious, sarcastic kid in this movie, spoilers, but it's like super immediate in the movie, but I'm sure you can guess from some of the trailers. So Ryan Reynolds is going back in time to stop a thing. He meets his child self, and whoever found this kid, perfect. Perfect Ryan Reynolds imitating boy. As someone who hated the New Zealand kid in Deadpool 2, this sarcastic little boy is great because he doesn't sound like, he's better than everyone else and he wants to fight and fuck with people. He's just like, everyone's trying to kill me and I'm doing great about it. It's fine. And yay, that kind of shit. And I like that better. I like that concept for a smartass kid way more than like, oh, I'm hurting inside, so I have to be a piece of shit with no real good explanation, which is what the kid in Deadpool 2 was. But yeah, this is just every other Ryan Reynolds movie. It's just fun. Fun. Streamlined, easygoing fun. I don't know where I would have felt if I had bought a ticket and just been like, yeah, not so bad. But here I'm like, yeah, this is good. I'm glad I, clicked a few buttons to turn it on. So, that's the Netflix appeal. That's super dumb, though, to have, I wouldn't say a drastic point difference. Maybe it would have been a 6.5. But here, I say 7.5 because I'd watch it again, actually. Again, watchability is really important to me. Like rewatchability, wanting to go back to it is super important. And I liked how the things were done. I think about, how when I was an aspiring filmmaker, if I were to do something really quick and accessible and digestible, that's the kind of film I probably would have liked to do, with some obvious choices. With some certain changes, like do a little bit better with Zoe Saldana. I don't know if she was restricted in filming, but they should have done way more with her. I would say the same thing about Mark Ruffalo, except he gets this really beautiful 10-second moment near the end that kind of solidifies his own character without having much to change. And if it wasn't for that choice that they did do, if it would have done any other way, then I'd be talking different about his portrayal of his character. But yeah, I would recommend it just because it's an easy to grab film off the internet. And last but certainly not least for the moment is Fresh, which is on Hulu. It is a thriller horror with Sebastian Stan really coming out on his own and proving to people that he's not just this stoic, troubled, pretty face in MCU movies. Daisy Edgar Jones, who I know a little bit about, she does a great job. And it's really about those two more than anything else. It's one of those things I can't even really give the twist away, what you can expect from, the trailer, what it's about. I mean, the title, like, come on. But it's an interesting way to look at the way men treat women. Basically, that's really what it is. It's this huge allegory on how women feel around men that they don't trust, that they want to trust, that they feel good about, and then something drastic happens. And this, is a massively scary dramatization, worst case scenario of all female fears. Women fears just a person who's considered to be or should be weaker or more submissive or passive in their role towards a more dominant person who thinks that if they explain their issues enough that their fucked upness is okay. And I think you could do that with any type of relationship, any type where it's not 50-50 even partner feel. Like there is a more passive or subservient partner, and there's a more take control dominant partner. You can put this metaphor there. But of course, it's the real scary thing about just women trying to meet men and it going awry. But it's done very well. It reminds me a lot of like 70s romance body horror kind of stuff, filmed a little bit in that way. Dude's house is set up like a 70s bachelor pad in a lot of senses. Sebastian Stan really stands out. He finally shows he's got personality. Before that, he felt like another pretty white boy like Jai Courtney or Taylor Kitsch or Hayden Christensen or, those guys who have this lineage. And you know who those guys are. You see them everywhere. It's straightforward. It's super emotionally intense because it goes all the way with its presentation of physical issues in relationships. It goes that far. It gets that uncomfortable. There should be a huge trigger warning. Hopefully you understand. It's about a guy meets a girl and it's called Fresh. So it's there. So it gets to that level. It does. Absolutely. It could have gotten worse, I'm sure, but expect the worst anyways, and it won't freak you out as much, I think. But I liked how it was presented and how it was paced. Acting was top notch, so 7.5, just because it does feel kind of short and very constricted, and I am super picky more than anything else about thrillers and horrors. Those films have to do a lot to me. They really do. And that intensity is there, and it just, again, it kind of has an abrupt ending. Not a fan of those. For me, and this is going away from just talking about Fresh and more talking about the genre, I'm not a big fan of thrillers and horror films that don't show just a little bit of how they're doing after. I think that's a very important perception of psyche. I think we need just a little bit of how they're doing now, a couple weeks or months or even years after the event. I think that's important. I think that helps tell the real complete story. Just doing the horrendous event in their lives and the horrible traumatic experience and then ending once, the issues dealt with or they've escaped feels lazy. I hate that word. But yeah, it feels kind of lazy. I'm just going to call it that. So if we just gotten a 2-minute scene of the girls like talking to each other after and how they feel now, I'd have a better, higher rating. But yeah, so 7.5, and that's just kind of barely a little bit. But that's it. That's all the films that I really loved the last like 60 days or so. Really enjoyed them. Really think they're the best one so far. Films I'm looking forward to: Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, The Northman, just because I'm very curious how somebody who makes a movie like Lighthouse suddenly decides to do a big like poetic Edda epic of Viking revenge. And of course, I'm actually really eagerly anticipating Multiverse of Madness just to get it over with, because that's how I treat MCU films. It's not like a band-aid to tear off. It's more like, oh man, I'm going to this party really soon. I can't wait to experience the party and then, go about my life after the party's over. That's how I feel about Marvel stuff. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much as always, especially if you watch this whole thing. Tell me what you thought and what your like top 5 films of the year so far are. See and tell what you're anticipating, all that kind of stuff too. And we'll try to get a dialogue going, especially on my Twitter. I'm cool with talking about that all day on a Twitter probably. Thank you so much for watching, listening, like, share, subscribe. I have a Twitter, I have a Patreon. Do what you will. I'm not very pushy about all that. I don't really ever want to be, but whatever support you do give helps me get better, helps me probably get better software eventually to edit things, helps remind and convince myself that I have to keep doing this, not just because I want to, but people actually want me to too. Maybe, if that's how you feel. So thank you for all your support, and as always, have a good night.